Hi, everybody. Welcome to Two Out the First. I'm Ryan Ballinger. Great to have you with us. It's April 28th, 2026. We've got lots to get to. I would say this is more like a four off the first show. We've got at least three topics to get to. Probably a couple more we can get to at the tail end. But I want to kick off the show today talking about headlines coming out of New Orleans, Louisiana, not related to the Zurich Classic, which we'll get to later, but reports that LIV Golf New Orleans is set to be postponed or has already been postponed, but it hasn't been made public quite yet. Not sure about that. We'll find out a little bit more. Apparently, there's supposed to be an announcement today about the future of the tournament that hasn't been made yet at the time that we're doing this. But WDSU, the TV station down in New Orleans, which, by the way, has a horrible website, like pop-up city, as soon as you go to check anything out. But they were the first to break the news that the tournament is set to be postponed. Now, it's supposed to be played June 25th through 28th at City Park, which the state government and New Orleans put money into in terms of renovation to have this tournament specifically. The state was supposed to pay $7 million to LIV Golf in hosting the event. They paid about a little over $1 million so far. Apparently, LIV's paying that money back. But there are kind of conflicting reasons given in multiple different reports about why this is happening and who initiated it. It sounds like the kind of authoritative version of this is that LIV initiated the postponement of this event and contacted the state and city of New Orleans and indicated that they would want to move the date of the tournament. If not postpone it together toward the fall after the season. They talked about a notion apparently of an exhibition version of this tournament. I don't know what that means. LIV has never had a silly season. They may not have a silly season because then the kind of next version of this or the kind of next talking point out of this is from WDSU that, okay, LIV's going to postpone the event in the interest of trying to get their finances straight, get more secure financing, and restructure their business so that they can continue on. Well, that's only a few events from now, right? That's not many. The next LIV Golf event is supposed to be next week at Trump National in Northern Virginia at LIV Golf Virginia. That's supposed to be the next tournament. And Joel Beal with Golf Digest went and called the club and said, hey, are you still having this thing? And they said yes. So at least insofar as everyone there knows, they're going to have the event next weekend down at Trump National in D.C. Well, it's called Trump National D.C. It's over the Potomac. And I guess then the next question is, why postpone it, right? If the idea is to get better financing or have more secure financing, have a better restructured business, and that's something that you need to have happen by 2 months from now, that indicates that you don't have as secure financing as you need to get through the entirety of this season. Scott O'Neill said in an email to employees ahead of LIV Golf Mexico City, it's full throttle, full steam ahead, full throttle for the remainder of the season. We've got money. He said in the interview with TNT Sports, you've got funding through the end of the year. Then you've got to go figure out how to do it. That was deleted off of TNT Sports' interview and reposted without it. But he said it, right? That's out there. So the indication from him to not only the public, but also his employees is, hey, we've got enough money to get through this season, and then we've got to figure it out. So if the reporting to this story is accurate in full, then that's not the case, right? Or it's a easy excuse, one or the other, and you don't know either way. If it's an easy excuse, it's an easy excuse to go to New Orleans and go, we just don't want to be here at the end of June. Our players hate the idea of playing in Louisiana heat at the end of June, so we're just not going to do it. That is totally plausible. That is plausible. The more juicy explanation is we don't have the money to do this, and we're not going to be in operation by then. So if we don't have money, we can't do this. Why even bother, right? And that would, I guess, be sort of the honest way to do it, right? I think that would be, the ethical thing to call a potential partner who's going to pay you $7 million in total to host an event in your city and say, we can't do it. Okay, that's fine. That's one way to look at it as well. But what seems odd to me about all this is the idea that then LIV could have an exhibition event in New Orleans in the fall after the season. They've never entertained that once. One of the draws of LIV to their players was we have 14 events. When we're done, we're done. We go from basically beginning of February to the end of August. That's it. We don't have a fall. We don't have, January. We don't have that, right? So then to say to your players, and presumably you're not going to have all of them, right? You wouldn't have a full tournament if it's an exhibition. Have this tournament in New Orleans as like a 4-person thing, or maybe they're doing the duels thing that they've been doing on YouTube, where they have like an influencer and a player, and they compete together in different teams. Maybe it'd be that. I don't know. I have no idea. I think that the bigger sticking point here is that the detail about trying to get financing and trying to have their financial house in order before they have this event, and that's 2 months from now. So if that's the case and that's the pressing issue, then all of a sudden you don't have clarity. You don't have full funding for the full year, at least enough to be able to take care of moving everything forward 2 months from now. So for all of the kind of LIV Golf bot folks on, Twitter and X and different facets online that were up in arms about the reporting, from starting with Ryan French down through James Corrigan, through Brett Baer of Fox News, all these people that kind of did the dog walk of, hey, LIV's in some financial trouble here, with different details at different stages. This seems like another dot plot that says, hey, there's some financial trouble here. There's something to be worried about. What that exactly is to be determined, right? And the kind of supplemental excuse that, hey, it's really hot in New Orleans in June and we've got the World Cup to compete against us. I don't think that really helps buoy the argument. Like, those things were known when you announced this tournament, right? When the city and state committed financial resources to hosting this event, they knew what the calendar was, and so did you. The idea of having any golf tournament in the South in June, July, or August sounds like a horrible idea. And that includes the Tour Championship, by the way, in Atlanta. And also the FedEx St. Jude Championship in Memphis. Those are horrible ideas. It's like 95 degrees every day. Why would you want to be there? And it was obvious LIV knew that, New Orleans gets hot in June, right? That's not surprising. That's why they have the Zurich Classic at the end of April, just before it gets unfathomably hot in the Bayou, right? So I think the takeaway here seems pretty clear, that there is some kind of issue. And whether LIV volunteered that because they didn't think they could execute the tournament, or they didn't have the finances or whatever, but they apparently kind of took the initiative here and said, look, we can't do this thing. Now, what that means for the next slate of tournaments before that, who knows? You're going to have LIV Golf Virginia next weekend, presumably. There's been nothing talked about there. So I'm in this area. I'm in the DMV, the District, Maryland, and Virginia area. So I'm probably going to go to LIV Golf Virginia one day. I've never been to a LIV Golf event since 2022 when they started doing this series. I've had it here a couple different times. I had it here last year at Robert Trent Jones Golf Club in Northern Virginia, which is a little bit of a haul, but I've always had personal commitments. So I'm going to go to this thing. I'm going to see what it is and see what we've got. And I guess we'll find out sooner than later. But if there is an announcement on Tuesday, later today, we'll talk about it on the Thursday show and what that might portend for the future of LIV Golf. So there's that. Let's get into Nelly Korda winning the Chevron Championship. She is the first player in 35 years in the LPGA Tour to lead by multiple shots after every round and win a major. That's pretty amazing. That's a cool statistic unto itself. She had a 6-shot lead, which is the biggest 36-hole lead in a major in like 40 years. She got the job done. What a win. What an awesome win for Nelly Korda. She kind of got a little jab in, I think, at a couple of people, a couple of very online people, probably, at the end of in her news conference after the fact, and said she was really happy to get this one over the line because it meant all of the kind of stuff she had to deal with, whatever chatter she had to deal with earlier on in the season, made it worth it, right? She won the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions in Orlando. That tournament was cut off after 54 holes because poor weather was expected for the final round. It was really, really cold and nasty, so they just kind of called it, right? And she had a multi-shot lead going in the final round, but kind of the doubters and haters, of which there are many apparently, they all said, well, Nelly Korda would have lost the lead had they played the final round. She wouldn't have closed it out. And I think that's a silly assumption to make, but she won the tournament under, as she called it, quote, funky circumstances. And then she winds up skipping the Winter Asian swing, and she starts back up when the tour comes back to the United States. She loses in back-to-back weeks to Hugh Joo Kim, and playing in the final group in both those tournaments with her on Sunday, loses both times. that stuff happens, but okay, how do you keep losing? You keep getting in this position. Aren't you great? You should be winning. And then she gets into the final group on Sunday again and plays against Lauren Coughlin and the rest of the field, the Aramco Championship at Shadow Creek. And yeah, that's a loss, right? Lauren Coughlin wins, huge win. I mean, Nelly looked great, just wasn't good enough. And comes to this tournament, clear favorite. She skips the Los Angeles tournament just to get rested and ready. The golf course is clearly set up for her to do well. It's 6,800 yards. It's a long test by LPGA standards. She's one of the longest hitters on tour. Puts it in play. She likes golf courses like this that are a little firmer, that require longer shots, that aren't just wedge contests on par fives and shorter par fours. And she thrives, right? Gets out way ahead. And her main competitor is Patty Tavatanakit, who just so happens to be also one of the longest players in the LPGA. And when she won her major 5 years ago, she hit the ever-living hell out of the ball around Mission Hills, averaging something like 320 yards off the tee on the holes they measured on a very dry golf course that week. But she hits the heck out of the golf ball. So it's no wonder the two bombers were right there in the end. And then have Ronnie Yin as part of the equation as well was nice. It's nice to have Ronnie Yin back in that kind of contention space. So now she's number one in the world again. Nelly Korda is. She's won 3 majors. She's won 2 of them in this event. She clearly likes having this event in Texas. She's won both of them in Texas. And I thought it was kind of interesting that she talked after the fact. She did the Poppy's Pond jump, which I think was a little bit of conjecture about whether this kind of 4-foot deep temporary pool that was dug and installed into the ground by the tournament would even get used, whether anyone who would win would just go, no thanks, I'm not doing that, and walk away. And I thought it was really interesting that Korda said, as long as I'm winning this tournament, I'm going to jump because I want to keep this tradition alive. If someone doesn't do it one year, it probably kills it off forever. And it's something that the tournament cares about. It's something that the players care about. I'm going to keep it alive. I'm going to keep jumping if I keep winning. I thought that was a cool thing to say. And then it was very interesting to hear her talk about how nervous, how anxious she was in the final day, despite a huge lead, because she went to play a very conservative style of golf to try to win this thing. She went and played a style that demanded her playing safe. She was playing to keep her lead, not to extend it, not to play aggressively. And she hated it, right? Think about like 16, par 5. She hits driver. She could have reached the green into probably 6-iron, 5-iron. She talked about with Doug Ferguson after of the Associated Press. Instead, she lays up with a wedge, another wedge on. That was the smart play. She hated it, couldn't stand it. And she said she just kind of wanted to make that putt on 18, get it over with, and then she could celebrate. And I think a lot of people assume that when you have a huge lead, it's easy. It's not easy to win with a big lead. It can be tricky because you play these mental games with yourself, right? You're not playing your normal golf. Most golf tournaments, you're chasing, right? You rarely win that big. Or if it's close, you're just trying to keep level. So you're trying to kind of go shot for shot. Well, that's a different style of golf than trying to just make pars and just trying to get the ball toward the hole, make it easy, stress-free, take all the trouble out, do the smart things. Smart golf is boring and it's effective, but it can be really hard to do for someone who likes to be aggressive and isn't used to kind of doing that. And so I think it's a stress level that Nelly's not necessarily used to in a major championship, but now she knows she can do it, right? And that's kind of expanding the portfolio of different ways to win. And I think as a professional golfer, the great ones are the ones who figure out how to win different ways. You don't just win one way. You win 3 or 4 different ways. You win from way ahead. You win from behind. You win close. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You can win when someone else blows up. You can have the greatest final round of your life. There's lots of different ways. And the more ways you figure out how to do it, to get across the finish line first, you become a more competent champion. You become a better champion. So now she's got 2 wins this year. Starts the year with a win. Gets a win in the first major. The major venues probably line up pretty decently for her. Hazeltine plays typically a little bit longer. That should work to her advantage. That's the Women's PGA. U.S. Women's Open this year is at Riviera. She's a great ball striker. Length does help, but it's not everything. And then they go to Royal Lytham in St. Anne's for the Open this year, which, by the way, they increased the purse to $10 million, and they're going to have 34 hours of live coverage on TV this year. They introduced a 3-hour morning window of live coverage for the Women's Open, which I think is great. It's a very nice addition for golf fans. So you get a little extra coffee golf from Royal Lytham and St. Anne's. And then she's always been kind of in there at Evian, and I think she can win that pretty much at her leisure. So this should be a pretty darn good year for Nelly Korda, and I think that's great for her. So congratulations to her on the win, and congratulations to the LPGA for putting on an event that eventually got there in terms of enthusiasm. I think once Nelly got way out in front, more people got interested in it. I think part of the problem of having this event at Memorial Park is that you just had the PGA Tour there a month ago, right, for the Houston Open. Gary Woodland won. It was such an emotional thing. You had a lot of people for that, and then you're like, oh, we're having another golf tournament here at the same course? That might be a struggle. I think they got to figure out something there. I don't know what that's going to look like, but they're planning to come back next year. They're planning to renovate the 18th hole and put some kind of water feature, like part of the golf hole around 18, set it up so they can have this leap into Poppy's Pond, which I think is a public course is absolutely hilarious because so many people, once they install that feature and they realize there's going to be kind of some space to jump into, people are going to jump into that all the time, and they're probably going to hurt themselves. But we'll talk about that another date when that's permanently installed. So congratulations to Nelly Korda on the win and getting her third career major championship. I think she's now only 5 points away from the LPGA Hall of Fame. It's a points-based system. You got to get 27 points. If you get postseason awards, so player of the year, scoring average, stuff like that, you can get an extra point. You get 2 points for a major. So she could find herself, if she has a great rest of the year, right on the doorstep of, if not actually in the LPGA Hall of Fame at the end of this year, 27, 28 years of age. Pretty incredible stuff for Nelly Korda. All right, let's talk about the Fitzpatricks. They're the winners of the Zurich Classic of New Orleans. They did it in dramatic fashion. They made a double bogey on the 12th hole on Sunday, an alt shot. 14th hole, they made a bogey, let everybody back in. The Christophers, Wrighton and Ventura, although Christopher Ventura goes by Chris these days. The Norwegian guys. You had Alex Smalley and Hayden Springer who were in it. They kind of brought them all back into the tournament in the end. You get to the par 5 18th. You need a birdie to win. It's a relatively easy par 5, especially in best ball, right? Not so much an alt shot. You still got to hit shots, and you're hitting every other one. And Alex gets the second shot into the greenside bunker. Matt Fitzpatrick later says it was the best lie he could have ever had out of a bunker, basically sitting up on a tee. He hits it aggressively, puts a little mustard on it, hits it to tap in range, and then Alex Fitzpatrick hits the putt in. They win the tournament by a shot on 31 under, set the tournament record for scoring the day before. They set the tournament record in best ball scoring. They shot 57 in the third round. They shoot 1 under in the final round in alt shot. That's good enough. They win by 1, and Alex Fitzpatrick now is a PGA Tour member. He gets a 2-year card as a result of this. He gets 400 FedEx Cup points. So that's his non-members. That's kind of an awkward situation. But nevertheless, he gets in all of the signature events for the remainder of this year. In fact, he's playing this week at Doral, Trump National Doral, for Cadillac Championship. His brother Matt is not, but he is. He's going to take advantage of this. He's in the signature events the rest of the way. Gets in the PGA Championship as a result, although I think he probably could have gotten an invite anyhow because the PGA has that discretion to round out the field. But now he's in there as a PGA Tour winner. And now he has incredible access the rest of the year to these high-level tournaments to try to do something with it. But he's got a PGA Tour card for 2 years. He had already won on the DP World Tour this year. He had won the Euro Indian Open just a few weeks prior, so was already in good form, probably in decent shape to get himself a PGA Tour card through the DP World Tour's Race to Dubai points list. Instead, he doesn't have to do that. He can do that right away now. Now he has a 2-year card. The emotion was so cool for me. Like, I'm an only child. I don't have brothers or sisters. I have 2 kids, so I don't know what they feel having siblings, right? I've never had that. One way or the other, the highs or the lows, the love and the loathing, whatever it is. I never had that. And it was really cool to just kind of see the eye contact, the reaction when that putt went in. Alex said he couldn't feel his hands, couldn't feel his body. He thought he was going to miss the putt because he couldn't feel anything. He felt totally numb, totally nervous over this like 1-footer that you've made a million times in your life. And it goes in and he just crouches to the ground like he can't believe it. Matt can't believe it. And that's got to be really cool for both of them, right? Alex has worked really hard to be a high-level professional golfer, a guy who could be in the top 150 players in the world. And then He does that on his own, wins the Indian Open, first DP World Tour win. Then he does this, right? He was a very important part of, obviously, this week, this winning. And for Matt, it's a really cool thing for him too. Like he hits a shot that sets it up for his brother to get a PGA Tour card. That's something that bonds them even more forever. I think that's amazing. Fitzpatrick, Matt, is the first player since Scotty Scheffler in 2024 to win back-to-back weeks on the PGA Tour. That's awesome. He's won 3 times in basically 45 days. Not even 40 days, I think. Wins the Valspar. He obviously won the Heritage at his favorite place on earth, other than probably Augusta National, Harbor Town, for the second time. Becomes the first international winner of that. By the way, beats the world number 1 in the playoff to do it. Wins this in dramatic fashion. 3 wins in the space of 4 tournaments played. That's incredible. Takes a week off. You got to think about him pretty significantly for the PGA Championship, given the golf that he's playing and the year that he's had. He's won $10.5 million. He's going to be a father in 3 months. I mean, this has got to be the best year of this guy's life. Congratulations to him on what he has accomplished. Congratulations to Alex on getting a PGA Tour card. That's huge. This is a cool tournament. And there are times when it's played, especially the first few days, you're like, yeah, I don't know. This is very interesting. Lots of teams are kind of guys that you don't know very well. You get to know a little bit watching it. But when it gets close on Sunday, when it gets close like this, all of a sudden it gets really interesting. And it doesn't matter who the teams are. In this case, it just really mattered a lot because of this unique story to it. So, again, congratulations to the Fitzpatricks on a tremendous week. Cadillac Championship is this week. It is a Trump National, Doral, the Blue Monster. 5 of the world top 20 are skipping because we've got 3 signature events in the space of 4 tournaments. You may think it's a political statement. I have no idea whether it is or not. Sure seems like a structural statement to me because you've got Heritage the week after. You got the Masters, Heritage the week after. You've got New Orleans, which is kind of an off week, but a couple of top guys played in it. You've got Cadillac at Doral. You've got Truist at Quail Hollow, and then you've got the PGA Championship. I mean, that's 5 big events in 6 weeks, and that's just not going to work. And we will talk about that on Thursday with the PGA Tour. Probably should do to address this problem. I have an interesting idea. I will probably put it up on my Instagram before then. It's not the most radical thing, but it sure seems like it's radical given the way that the schedule looks these days. So I'll just leave it at that. If you want to follow me on Instagram, Ryan Ballingy Golf, I'll probably have it there before we talk on Thursday. That's going to do it for us on 201st. Thanks so much for watching or listening. I appreciate it. You can follow me on social media at Ryan Ballingy Golf or Ryan Ballingy, depending on the platform. Follow Golf News Net wherever you'd like at the handle Golf News Net. Back with another show on Thursday. We'll also have the press a little bit later on today to talk about the Cadillac Championship, PGA Tour event, signature event at Trump Doral, the Blue Monster. And we'll have all kinds of videos throughout the course of the week on our Facebook and Instagram pages. Thanks again for listening or watching. I'm Ryan Ballingy. We'll see you next time right here on 2 Off the First.